Okay, you have already started the list.
Yes.
And I want to take up the conversation we had last time about doubt. To stay in doubt. And also I want to talk about when I lie. Always.
Always lie.
Yeah, it's about the lie. It's about when you do this, when you project and then you film the projections.
Yeah.
The double space. What did you say?
Mise en abîme, into the abyss.
Oh, yeah. Double space, abyss.
How do you say porös in English?
Porous.
Porous.
And you wrote these.
Yeah. Because I just read the
non-text.
The non-text. No, but I was super impressed.
No. Because last time we spoke is because we have a lot of things we want to talk about, but we do currently speak a lot about art in public space.
Yes.
Working with public space, working with the social. And then I was calling Loulou almost in panic because I was like, I don't believe art can exist in public space. It doesn't work. We have to get rid of it. And then just to kind of let that doubt come out.
Okay.
Because I know
that we both doubt.
And can pick each other up from that position. That's I think.
Yeah. There's something about this because I read your proposal, and it's so much a proposal for research.
Yes.
While it's also a proposal for this permanent physical.
I have to do something.
Yeah. But I didn't feel like it was. I was impressed by how you kind of got the research into the proposal.
Yeah, and
I started to read it, and it was all these, and then you invented, the concepts, and then I was reading about the concepts. I like this, I'm into the, it's like you found a way to talk about improvisation, which is what I'm, trying to, and then I couldn't understand what you're trying to do. No. So I had to do the thing. I had to go to the time plan. It's like, what the hell is she trying to do? I was reading like a jury. Like, okay, I can find it in the budget and in the time plan. Okay. So then I understand what it is you're trying to do. Yeah.
But it is actually. I think it's good that you said, because it is trying to always carve out the space via concepts and ideas, so you can be extremely free and improvise.
Yes.
But that needs a space for me.
Yes.
A verbal space or a space.
Yes. So it's like you made a proposal, you made a research proposal, you made like a course.
Yeah. For myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you made also like an alternative process for city planning.
Yeah. That I think they should have.
Yes. And so it's
But I think that
where are you now with that?
I know less than ever, but I think what is kind of when you have to always try to be in a double position, both in this completely improvisational non-knowing. I don't like the non-knowing. Maybe a place for intuition or a place for just fast reaction, and then still have a grid to go from, and I think that is why I also trust you to call, because you doubt both positions.
Yes,
it's a double doubt on both the concepts and the plan and the grid and the improvisation, because that is also a deeply problematic space.
Yes,
I would say.
Yes. So for me, this is the porous. And do you remember when we were in the port in Södertälje?
Yes.
And we had this site visit with the students, and I had my camera, and I was like photographing everything. It's like my way of understanding, just looking, just taking like hundreds of photos. Yeah. And you were saying like, you're such an image person. You're like, you think with image. How can you relate to this space through image? Yeah. Because you're such a sculptor.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And you have you're thinking with the materials. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking about that, because porous is a way of thinking about the same thing, but in relation to material.
Oh,
You're thinking improvisation, because the purist is a new concept for me, but I'm trying improvisation, and that's more or less taken from music. That's why I'm going into the jazz. And then I'm thinking about the iterative. That the process is iterative, and that's more like a critical notion towards planning, which you are also writing about. Okay, what does it mean not to plan? To run a project from goal, precision to goal fulfillment, and then so that's another way. That's the iteration thing. Like, okay, what does it mean to move in? Move in not knowing, but gradually knowing something, and so on. And then the ground up, which is another way of talking about. That's like there are many different ways of trying to talk about the same thing, no?
Yeah, because I also realized that now when I'm thinking, me saying you're an image person, and I realize that I do not mean imaging as making image as framing, because you also take so many images. I mean, it's like more of a kind of still filming way. So it's not framing; it's more a moving documentation that you did. That actually fascinated me, but still you actually you used this kind of frames by frame in a three-dimensional spherical attention space when you did this first site visit. That is, of course, also porous, because if you always move when you take images, but you do not make a film, because a film is a set time frame. You do create a porous
because
system.
we were there to understand, so we were not. I was not making images. I was taking.
True.
Like downloading the space in an attempt to try to see it.
Yeah, because I realized that it was a way for you to look closely.
To see.
The camera was something that made you actually look.
Yes.
And for me, it would be impossible. It would be impossible. It would be feeling like I have a very dark sunglasses.
Yeah, so put the camera down, for God's sake. What are you trying to do? Like, it's in my face. And it's like, but it was so, because then afterwards I was trying, and because I have this Baroque thinking always. So there is image person and sculpture person. There's like, so what does it mean to think as a sculptor through the material?
What
does it mean to think through because then I ended up doing an image.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
But
it's also very
circular. It's a spherical image.
Yeah, and so I'm working with the image, but with a lot of attention to the physical materiality of space.
Yeah.
And just like you're working with sculpture, but with a lot of attention to how do we see.
Yeah. So neither of us actually want to do a framed image. No. That is kind of what is common. Always an image that you have to move through.
So what's the frame image? That's evil, right? What is that? That's Babylon system. What is the frame?
It's a decision. Of course you can take it. I mean, this is what I choose to show. And of course we can there will be a lot of connotations and there will be a body looking at it, but still it's less open-ended than a film or a movement. Unless, I mean, of course you do images where you have to move around, but it is also still an image. I mean, you have to take a decision that it ends here. I mean, and you refuse this, even though when you did this big painting you did in Umeå, it's a circle, and this one that you had what was it? It was moving in a machine. The painting that was moving in a machine. You do really resist to put a final edge on it. It's like you cannot make a decision. And then coming to this double perspective, the abyss that you talk about, when you have a film and then you project it in the space, and then you film this film in the space, the films in the spaces, and then you show that film. It's also like you refuse to decide on one way.
Yeah, it's like you don't want. I think the thing that makes me interested in looking at society or politics or community or anything is because I don't know how to look at it. Or what does it mean to look at something in a certain way, or how do I see? How can I see, and always knowing that there are things I don't see. So the kind of act of seeing is there. So I don't want, in a way, I don't want my work to be obvious in the way that this is how you're supposed to
see it.
In a way, I like that nobody knows how. Yeah,
and this is how I saw it.
Yeah,
yeah. But I think this is in common. That kind of refusing to. I mean, no, not refusing to. Actually, really wanting to remind that things can be seen in many ways at the same time. So this porousness. And the feeling of a present improvisation, because improvisation is an act that is there in time, but it wasn't decided to kind of finish, as in jazz then, with this kind of space that is very tightly happening there. It's an act. So this reminding of an act, maybe.
Yeah, but when you say the not framed, because frame then could be form in a way. So actually, you can say that the surround of a 360-degree painting is not framed, but I was kind of testing that form as an enclosure, as a kind of frame, as a constraint, as a prison, as a surveillance, as all of that.
Yeah, but you can never, you cannot. I mean, if you want to, this is also something. I mean. It's not like I think you are or I am escaping to take a standpoint or to try something out, like I want to put this here. It's not that, because that would be completely irrelevant for an audience. So you do want to put something out there, and then it needs a form and a decision. But to always make this form as complex and as open-ended as it is possible, and also do gestures that really remind that this could be different. And you could, if you will always have something in your back that you don't see. If you have a frame that is circular and you're in the middle, you are in a prison, but you will always not see something in behind. But if you have the thing there, since that's also why I want to make sculpture, because you have to move around it.
Yes.
And it can never be, it must be, I mean, it doesn't exist without the movement.
I remember when you were talking about the Giacometti exhibition.
Yeah.
And you were talking about that you were so tired about how we look at things. Was that about that? What was it that, do you remember what you were saying?
No, I never remember what I say, but it is, Giacometti is a good example, because it's so much about, he's kind of using the airspace or the space to kind of manipulate how you feel it in your body. So he's kind of really, I mean, this is a very formal, simple gesture. He's really forming the space, so it sucks you, and you don't know the distance to the sculpture. I mean, instead of also looking at them as thin sculptures, I mean, it is an activated space that is extremely disorientating, because you lose track on where the sculpture is, his work is. So I think this kind of always, like you just said, always kind of take one more turn on how, and to remain, to kind of remind that we can never see everything is an important part of what I see in your work. But also to kind of also have the capacity to completely, I mean, verbalize. You'd really like, I know you like.
I love this kind of. Okay, for me it was like, okay, time, conflict, culture,
you do this kind of.
I was like, yeah, this
mapping. You're always mapping. Yeah.
This is a world view. I was trying to understand. I was trying to read Heidegger. It's like, okay, whatever. But then, because that thing of making, you made a. That's also beautiful. That's in a way framing your proposal by just dropping these, and each one of them you have a number of understanding of what they mean or what they do as concepts, which are both critical and that both they help you, some kind of tools for thinking, but they also, there's a danger in each one of them.
Yes.
So it's I would have loved to be in that how they talk.
I don't know. I would be very...
Because you give very little.
Yeah, I know.
But and then I also think it's because of your, you know, previous works that this can be accepted, because it's a wild...
Yeah.
It's a wild thing.
But this is also... The thing is also about this framing, non-framing, and kind of moving the cup and say, this is what we want, but still withdraw from that position at the same time.
Yeah.
It is because I've also built in the idea of if I could, I'm trying to say we because I want to escape the responsibility, but to kind of make something completely change over time, because I am really, I am scared of the, you know, nailing things down. I never felt so unknowing of what is right as I am in now. Both in terms of art and in political thinking, I know less. And then the idea of both framing, put yourself out there, take a responsibility, try something out, but still also try to open it so it doesn't nail something down. I mean, it is, of course, a bit fagged, weak. Resisting that. So if I could make things that actually rot or grow, but then also have some kind of permanence built in, it's both escaping but something, the responsibility.
When you read it, it feels like things are going to rot in public, but in a very profound,
beautiful way.
Yes. And also in a very constructive way, in a way, because the rotting will, you know, become something.
Yeah, I hope so.
Vegetation or, But
we'll But how did you, can I just, because I've been thinking about this, the double spaces when you film a film in a space. How did that start? I've never talked about that.
No. And it's something I did, I think I did the first time in Manifesta. And then I did it in another way and it became something else, and in another way and it became something else. So it became kind of a strategy to deal with an unsolvable problem.
And the unsolvable problem
And sometimes it was so easy. I mean, in Geneva it was just a way to make my space larger.
Very good.
Because I didn't have to constrain myself in this physical space, because I could, with the image, I can just double it or double it. And
then you did it with the spaces.
And then I could like add the same room next to this room and show 3 more films in that room. So that was like a very practical way of just enlarging the space. In Manifesta, the first time, I think my imagination was really linked to a previous piece in which I was trying to understand specificity and the feeling of image. So the anecdote is that when I was studying in Ethiopia, there was no films produced in Ethiopia. Now there are a whole industry, but at that time no. So all the cinemas were showing these second-grade, really bad Hollywood movies like Masters of Universe with Dolph Lundgren, and you know. And then there was this, I think it was a Dutch production company, and they came and they made this beautiful film, full-length film about Haile Gebrselassie, the marathon runner. It begins in the, you know, beautiful landscape. They show how he runs to school barefoot, you know, and his childhood. And then the film just throws you like 10 years, 20 years forward. And it's early morning in Addis Ababa. And, you know, starting to smell the coffee and nobody's out and he's running through the streets. And he's this, you know, it's very much like this Rocky when he's like through New York and he's a hero. And he was running in the streets of Addis just outside the cinema where we were sitting. And so I was in the premiere in the cinema in Addis, and it was the first time in CinemaScope, beautifully shot, the street just outside, which is a really dirty area of Addis, and the whole audience just went like, there was this like physical reaction to an image of the space where you're sitting, an image, and also a city that has not been depicted in this format, and it was just that moment of reaction to imagery, and it was like I don't know. you know this Bindu charts, Terrell. There's this. It looks like an MRI machine, and you lie down, and you go on, and there is this light. So I did that in Jana, and my feeling was that my vision took one step into my brain, because it was the color stimulation was so intense that I became acutely aware of looking through two holes.
The eyes. You could feel your eyes.
I saw the shadow of the hole.
Oh my God!
And it was like the act of seeing just stepped into my brain in a way. So these are like very physical experience of vision that I'm interested in in a way. So so then I was like, okay, how do you locate? How do you embody this way of showing and documenting space that image can? How do you make that? So I was trying, and also again, of course, in relation to translation, filming in Ethiopia and showing it in Sweden, and this translation and how you translate imagery and dealing with the dilemma of translation, right? Or trying to be understood. Or what does it mean to look at the black body in Ethiopia? What does it mean to look at the black body in Sweden? And always dealing with that. So it was another way of dealing with that. Like, how do I place the vision in the sight and in the viewer? Yeah. And that was so just trying to look at what it is you're looking at.
But this is what I think I mean with this refusal of a frame, because you cannot frame yourself. That is what we know. You don't know yourself. You know you have one body. I'm not two. At least I know it now. But
are you? Because I have some.
Yeah, we can talk about that. But so this being oneness, having one frame. And
identity
and one identity. This has to do with the porosity as well, to kind of completely be into this interchange with this potential multiplicity that could always happen. And it's not a magical out of body experience. It is something that really could happen with this film, for example. Yeah. And so there are tricks, but to really always remind of that. So it's not framing. I mean, framing is extremely good. I mean, we both love doing documents for teachings. But not love, but we do like to create
form.
Form.
Yeah.
Yes,
form for the process of learning
not
something.
Framing as no form, but it is the importance of this complex relation in the form, that it always reminds us that it's not one.
Okay, so destabilize.
Yeah.
Okay. I use destabilize a lot. 2020. Like I was like, guys, all I want to do is destabilize, and what I'm doing is destabilize. And now I'm done with. Yeah. Why am I done with destabilize? Why does it feel so wrong to talk about this?
Yes, I know why. Because I'm thinking about so much. I think it's something with the. I was thinking today that we have, I think it could be a generation thing, of course, connected to a certain set of critical models, that you do this mapping and you have this idea that does not exist one I, one me. And so you're very focused on all this structure. And when someone asks you, who are you? You resist that, of course. I mean, at least I do. But then I was thinking that the risk of resisting that is really that you end up so much here in destabilizing all of the time. So you actually can avoid doubt and risk by doing this. Yeah. So if you really want to kind of come into doubt and risk, then you kind of need to, in a way, also frame something as one.
I was in a Swedish radio and I said I want to destabilize, and I started to hate myself so deeply.
I can completely understand that.
Because it was a lie, and it was cowardly. It's like
because the cowardness.
It's cowardness, and then but then I also learned from Documenta 15 that that this idea of criticalness or criticality which this, you know, the destabilization is like a classical strategy in art to criticize, right? So that's all we have to do, just to point at something, destabilize it, and you think about it, and then make better. You know, so it's just another version of you know, the war photography that Sontag is writing. It's another way of just, it works very well. It worked very well for many years, but I didn't understand that it also really leaned on a very strong faith in the state. And that now I feel that what we have around us are failed states, you know, and in the realm of a failed state, this critical gesture of pointing towards what's wrong and just making people think about, making it visible, discussing it, questioning it, destabilizing it, you know, the response to that gesture is inadequate. And it makes me feel like a liar.
But I mean,
so there is something. It just lost. I can't use that anymore.
No, we can't. We can't, because also since, I mean, we have been talking a lot about lying, and the good lie and the bad lie, and also of course since this alternative fact has arrived. I mean, it has always been there, but since it's so open in the air that you can say whatever, and it doesn't matter what you say. So the words and what you say is not connected to a reality, a lived reality, or this also makes you, I mean, you cannot convince someone that they are wrong if they don't want to be wrong. So then words doesn't mean, which means that if the language is kind of emptied, then you have the feeling of being a liar all the time, because this notion of lies is actually infecting us. So this kind of I've been thinking about this summer, because a lot of people use the word truth. Again, I want to be true. Norén was so true. You know, this kind of emphasizing someone's truth.
True or sincere?
No, they use the word
truth.
Sanning in Swedish, which is truth. So this kind of occupation of using this truth concept, something is going on, and I think it has to do with this, what we're talking about.
Yeah.